Welcome to the Prescott Lab podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. If you're a man over 60, I want you to listen carefully, not because something's wrong with you, but because something important may have been overlooked for far too long. Not by you, but by the very system that told you this was just aging. Let me ask you something quietly personal. Have you ever looked at your partner and silently wondered, what if I can't show up for her tonight? Not for lack of love, not for lack of wanting, but because your body feels like it's left the room even when your heart hasn't. If that hits home, you're not alone, not by a long shot. Because I've spent over 30 years listening to men just like you, hard-working, loyal, proud, who carry that unspoken frustration behind their calm faces. And here's what most of them don't know. One of the most powerful tools for reclaiming stamina, blood flow, and intimate confidence isn't a pill. It's a drink. And it's probably already sitting in your fridge, waiting to be taken seriously. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this humble juice works biologically, hormonally, emotionally, and why I now recommend it to every patient over 60 who wants to feel like a man again naturally. But before we go there, let me ask you to do something simple but important. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you're already watching, just take a second and tap that like button. Why? Because every single like is fuel. It tells us this message matters. It tells us that men's health, men's pride, and men's power deserve real answers, not silence, not shame, and definitely not just a prescription pad. Your like keeps this podcast going, and it helps us reach the next man who might be quietly struggling just like you. All right. Now that we're here together, heart, mind, and science, let's get to it. Because once you understand why this juice works the way it does inside your body, you'll never look at it the same again. Let's take a closer look at what makes it so powerful, and why men over 60 are turning to it, not just for intimacy, but for something even deeper. 1. Why pomegranate juice works, and it's not just blood flow. I still remember the look on his face. James, 67, retired contractor, healthy by all appearances, but that day he walked into my office with his shoulders slightly dropped and his voice lower than usual. "Doc," he said, "I love my wife, I want to be with her. But when the moment comes, nothing happens. I feel like I'm failing her and myself." That kind of honesty stays with a doctor. It stays with a man, because beneath those words isn't just a question about function. It's a question about worth, and my answer to him wasn't a prescription. It was a suggestion so simple it made him laugh. "Juice?" he asked. "That's it, yes, that's it. But only if you understand what's in it and what it does once it enters your bloodstream." Pomegranate juice isn't some trendy miracle cure. It's packed with compounds that your body already knows how to use. We're just not giving it the chance. Inside that deep red liquid is a mix of natural nitrates and polyphenols. When nitrates enter your system, your body converts them into nitric oxide, the very molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and expand. When that happens, blood moves freely, forcefully, to exactly where it needs to be. But here's where it gets even more powerful. Polyphenols, those plant-based antioxidants, don't just ride along. They work like repair crews, soothing inflammation in your arteries, protecting the inner lining of your blood vessels, and helping keep everything flexible and responsive. Because what slows a man down after 60 isn't just desire fading. It's circulation narrowing, it's inflammation creeping in, it's oxidative stress eating away at your hormonal foundation. Pomegranate juice doesn't bulldoze the problem. It rebuilds from the inside out. And early research, though still growing, suggests it may even reduce oxidative damage in the testes, helping preserve testosterone levels naturally. That's not just about libido. That's about energy, motivation, confidence, and emotional presence, the very traits that define how a man feels in his skin. I've watched men go from dull, detached mornings to waking up with that quiet sense of charge again, not overnight, but week by week. Their systems begin to remember how to respond. This isn't a spike. It's a return, a homecoming to the rhythm you thought you lost. But of course, not every man is convinced at first. And some still ask, if it's this good, why isn't everyone doing it? The answer lies in what most men reach for instead, and why that shortcut may be costing more than they think. 2. The silent enemy, pills vs nature. Over the years, I've seen a familiar pattern, the quiet reveal of a bottle from a coat pocket. The blue pills. They are always held with a mix of hope and hesitation. "Doc, these work kind of," and I always pause because I know what's behind that kind of. Yes, they trigger a response. Yes, they get the mechanics moving, but what they don't do, what they can't do, is give a man back his wholeness. I had a patient in his early 70s tell me, "Sometimes I feel like I'm borrowing someone else's body for a night. The next morning I feel more disconnected than before." That line has stayed with me because it reveals a truth we don't talk about enough. Intimacy isn't just about performance, it's about presence, it's about feeling like yourself. And when your body is responding not because of rhythm, but because of a chemical override, something gets lost. You're in the room, but you're not in the room. Pills don't rebuild confidence, they create dependency. They don't nourish your blood vessels, they pressure them. They don't work with your biology, they bully it into submission. Now, I'm not here to shame anyone for what they've tried. When a man feels desperate, he reaches for what's available. That's human. But what pomegranate juice offers isn't just an effect, it's a foundation. It strengthens the very system that those pills try to bypass. And it does it without the price tag of side effects: no headaches, no flushed face, no racing pulse, no cold sweat of wondering, will it work this time? Even more important, it works in alignment with your body's natural rhythm. No surprises, no crashes, just momentum. Steady, subtle, real. Because after 60, the equation shifts. You don't just want a single night of performance. You want a life that works in the bedroom, yes, but also in the morning, at the dinner table, during quiet walks and deep conversations. And when you give your body tools it can trust, your body begins to trust you again. Still, some men ask if it's that effective. Why does it feel like things slowed down so much in the first place? To understand that, we need to talk about what actually changes inside your blood vessels after 60. And why even a strong heart can start falling behind in ways no one warned you about. 3. The real reason erections fade after 60. Doc, I still want it, my mind is there, but my body, it's just slow to follow. That line, or something like it, has echoed through my office more times than I can count, and every time I nod, not because I'm worried, but because I understand. See, what most men over 60 are feeling isn't a lack of desire. It's not even always low testosterone. It's something far more mechanical and far more reversible. It's the loss of flow. When you were younger, your blood vessels were supple, responsive, like new garden hoses that bent and flexed easily. One spark of arousal and your system opened like a dam gate. Blood surged where it needed to go, firm, fast, reliable, but time changes the plumbing. As we age, the inner lining of our blood vessels, called the endothelium, starts to stiffen. Inflammation sets in, micro tears accumulate, plaque begins to collect in the corners. And what used to be a superhighway becomes more like a back road full of potholes. It's not about want, it's about delivery. Even if your brain says yes, your body might take a long, winding detour to respond. That delay, that inconsistency, it's frustrating, but it's not a mystery, and that's where pomegranate juice quietly shines. Because while most treatments try to kick the engine harder, pomegranate juice does something different. It fixes the road. Its antioxidants help repair the endothelium. Its natural nitrates promote vasodilation, allowing vessels to open wider, faster, with less resistance. And that includes the vessels leading to your lower body, the ones that matter most when it comes to physical intimacy. Let me tell you about Bill, a 64-year-old former firefighter. He had borderline high blood pressure, decent energy, and a sharp mind. But he felt muted in the bedroom. No dysfunction per se, just a sense that things took more effort than they used to. We added 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice to his morning routine. 3 months later, he sat across from me and said, "I don't know if it's the juice, doc, but I feel like I'm back in my body. Things are happening faster, like my system finally got the memo. That's not magic, that's science." When your blood flows better, everything gets better: oxygen delivery, nerve response, muscle readiness. Your body doesn't just react, it remembers. And when that memory comes back, so does your confidence. But flow is only one part of the story. The next question is, when that spark does arrive, can you actually stay with it? Because stamina isn't just about starting strong. It's about finishing without fear. 4 true stories, what men say after trying this for 3 weeks. Not long ago, I got a voicemail from a man named Henry. He didn't say much. Just this: "Doc, I don't know what's in this juice, but it's doing something. I feel present again." That word present keeps coming up. Men don't usually talk in emotional terms, but when the change hits, it's not just physical, it's personal. It's not just about being firm, it's about being their body, mind, and spirit. Let me tell you a few stories that still stay with me. There's Arthur, 72, who hadn't been intimate in years, not because he didn't want to, but because the anxiety had crept in. He was tired of disappointing himself, tired of that quiet panic that set in every time he started to feel desire. He started with a small glass of pomegranate juice each morning, nothing complicated. No pressure. 3 weeks later, he walked into my office with a quiet smile and said, "I didn't rush. I didn't freeze, I was in the moment." That may not sound revolutionary, but for a man who's been living in fear of failure, that's freedom. Or David, 68, a retired music teacher. He told me something I'll never forget. "I didn't realize how much of my self-worth was tied to this until I started getting it back. It's not just the act, it's what it makes me feel about myself." Even their partners noticed. One wife told me he's more affectionate again, not just physically, emotionally. "He's teasing me, holding me longer, looking me in the eyes." That's not juice. That's connection rekindled because his body stopped betraying him. And yes, I've heard the same refrain from men across the board. The morning response returns. Energy holds longer throughout the day. Mood becomes steadier. And perhaps most powerfully, motivation starts to creep back in. That motivation isn't just about the bedroom. It's about taking walks again, cleaning the garage, calling up old friends. It's the reawakening of vitality, one small change at a time. That's the real beauty here. Not overnight fireworks, not false highs, but the quiet return of self-respect. And yet, even with all those stories, I know the next question on your mind: how exactly do I use it? How much? When? And what's the safest way to get started without overdoing it? 5. How to drink pomegranate juice like medicine. Let me be clear about one thing: this isn't magic. It's not about chugging a bottle and expecting fireworks by sunset. This is medicine, nature's medicine, and like all real medicine, it works best with rhythm, patience, and respect. When I started recommending pomegranate juice to my patients, I didn't just tell them go drink some. I tracked it. We looked at dose, timing, consistency, and over time, a clear pattern began to emerge. Here's what works best for most men over 60. Start with 4 to 6 ounces of 100 pure pomegranate juice. Not the cocktail blends with added sugar, not the juice drinks with 10 fruit and 90 marketing. You want the real thing, organic, cold pressed if possible. Drink it in the morning or between meals when your stomach is light and your body is ready to absorb those polyphenols and natural nitrates. If you want to amplify the effect, add a squeeze of fresh lemon juice or toss it into a smoothie with berries. The vitamin C helps nitric oxide production and gives your vascular system an extra nudge. And no, you don't need to drink it daily. 3 to 4 times a week is plenty for most men. Remember, this isn't about flooding your system. It's about reminding your system how to operate. Now, one important note, especially if you're on medication. If you're taking blood pressure meds or blood thinners, talk to your doctor before going heavy on the juice. Why? Because pomegranate juice can lower blood pressure naturally, and if your meds are already doing that, the combination might push things a little too far. Most men are fine. But fine isn't good enough for me. I want you safe. I want you informed. I also want you consistent, because that's where the real change happens, not in the first glass, but in the 5th. The 10th, the moment your body starts responding without effort. And if you don't love the taste, don't worry, you're not alone. Some men say it's too tart, others forget to take it. But there are ways to make it easy, even enjoyable, without turning your whole day upside down. Let me show you exactly how other men are fitting this into their lives with zero stress. Some of their tricks might surprise you. 6. Make it a habit. How to add it without overthinking it. One of the biggest obstacles I see in men over 60 isn't lack of motivation. It's mental overload. We're creatures of habit. We've earned our rhythms. And anything that feels like one more thing can be quietly resisted even when we want to do it. That's why when I talk to patients about pomegranate juice, I never pitch it like a chore. I treat it like brushing your teeth, something simple, private, powerful. Let me tell you about Robert, a 68-year-old widower who recently started dating again. He said, "Doc, I'm not a health nut. I don't do green drinks. I don't want a blender on my kitchen counter." Fair enough. So I asked him, "Do you read the paper in the morning?" He nodded. "Then pour a small glass before you sit down," and he did. Within weeks, that moment became something sacred, a quiet ritual of ownership. A reminder, I'm still choosing myself. Some men take it further. They pour it over ice with a splash of lime. A few turn it into a mocktail at dinner. One man mixes it with sparkling water and calls it the Red Revival. The method doesn't matter. What matters is visibility and ease. Keep the bottle where y'all see it, front of the fridge, next to the coffee maker, near your vitamins. Let your environment support the habit. And if you miss a day, no guilt. Just pick it up tomorrow. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency without pressure. Just like intimacy, just like manhood, it works best when it feels natural, not forced. After a few weeks, your body starts looking forward to it, not just for the taste, but for the way it makes you feel by mid-morning. Clearer, lighter, more grounded. And here's the part most men don't expect. As this juice nourishes your blood flow and supports your hormones, another system quietly lights up the one between your ears and behind your ribs, because what starts in the body doesn't stay there. It touches your heart, it sharpens your mind, and it begins to repair something far deeper than just circulation. 7. More than erections, how this juice boosts brain-heart hormones. Most men come to this juice for one reason, but they stay for another. Because after a few weeks, it's not just their bodies that change, it's the way they feel in the world. Sharper, calmer, more anchored. Let me explain why. Pomegranate juice isn't just a circulation booster. It's a full-body support system from brain to heart to hormone balance, and that's not marketing. That's real biology. First, let's talk about the brain. Inside your head are tiny capillaries feeding your most vital organ with oxygen and nutrients. But with age, those vessels narrow. Inflammation builds, blood delivery gets sluggish. That's when you start forgetting names, losing your train of thought mid-sentence, or walking into a room and wondering why you're there. Pomegranate juice, rich in polyphenols, helps reverse that trend. These antioxidants reduce inflammation in the brain's blood vessels and support better oxygen flow. In studies, this has translated into improved memory, quicker processing, and even reduced mental fatigue. One of my patients, Walter, 73, used to be a civil engineer, logical, precise, proud of his mind. After adding pomegranate juice to his routine for intimacy, he came back 3 weeks later and said, "I didn't lose my keys this week." I know it sounds small, but it matters. It's like the lights are staying on longer, and then there's your heart, quite literally the engine behind your erections. The same blood vessels that supply your brain and genitals also feed your heart muscle. And if those arteries are inflamed or clogged, not only does performance suffer, your life expectancy does too. Pomegranate juice supports healthy cholesterol balance, reduces plaque formation, and gently lowers blood pressure. That's not a side benefit, that's survival. Finally, the hormone story. Testosterone declines naturally with age, but in many men that decline is accelerated by oxidative stress, especially around the testes where testosterone is made. Some studies suggest pomegranate juice helps reduce that oxidative stress, allowing the body to maintain more balanced hormone production. Now, is it a substitute for testosterone therapy? No. But for many men, it creates just enough of a lift to notice a difference in energy, mood, motivation, and yes, desire. You start standing taller, laughing easier, showing up again. And when you combine those three systems, brain, heart, and hormones, you're not just fixing function, you're reclaiming presence. But for all the physical changes, there's still something more subtle, more sacred, that men don't often talk about, and yet it's the very reason many of them came to see me in the first place. It's not blood flow. It's not testosterone. It's the quiet ache of losing something deeper. And that's the next conversation we need to have. 8. You're not broken, a personal message for men who still want to feel alive. There's a part of this story that science alone can't touch, and it's the part I see most clearly when a man sits across from me, eyes lowered, voice tight, trying to explain something that doesn't quite have words. He's not just asking for a solution. He's grieving something, not just the loss of performance, but the slow erosion of self, of being the one who reaches, who holds, who leads with quiet strength. I've sat with men who've built empires, raised families, survived war, illness, divorce, and now feel defeated by their own bodies. And that kind of defeat is private, it's silent. It happens behind closed doors and stoic faces. But here's what I tell every single one of them. You are not broken, you are not past your prime, you are not a shell of your former self. You are a man in transition, and your body is simply asking for something new. Not punishment, not shame, not a desperate fix. Just care, just attention, just a quiet gesture that says, I still matter. Because the truth is, most men don't need to be fixed, they need to be restored. And that restoration doesn't come from force, it comes from rhythm, from nourishment, from showing up every day, even in small ways, for yourself. That's what this juice really represents. It's not just nitric oxide and polyphenols, it's a choice. A quiet declaration that you're still in the game, that you haven't given up, that your story is still being written. One man told me after a month of adding it to his routine, "Doc, I'm not having wild sex every night. But last week I looked at my wife and she looked back and I didn't look away." That's what matters, the spark, the presence, the dignity. And once you taste that again, not just in your body, but in your being, everything changes. Because now, when you wake up with morning energy, when you move with more ease, when you reach for your partner without hesitation, you're not chasing youth. You're embracing manhood on your own terms. So now that we've walked through the science and the soul, I want to leave you with one last thing. It's simple, it's specific, and if you're ready, it's a step you can take today, one glass at a time. 9. One small glass, one powerful return. If you've made it this far, it tells me something important about you. You're not here for quick fixes. You're here because you believe deep down that something better is still possible. Not a fantasy, not your 25-year-old self, but a life where you wake up and actually feel present in your body. Let's recap what we've learned, not just with facts, but with truth. You now know that pomegranate juice isn't just a sweet red drink. It's a natural tool to support better blood flow, sharper cognition, steadier hormones, and yes, stronger, more reliable intimacy. You've seen how it compares to pills, not as a replacement, but as a foundation. A quiet rebuild, not a temporary boost. A long-term rhythm that works with your biology instead of against it. You've heard real stories. Men who started skeptical and ended up surprised, not because they became someone else, but because they finally started feeling like themselves again. You now understand how your blood vessels change after 60, how testosterone responds to stress, and how a single glass taken consistently with care can ripple into areas of your life you thought were slipping away. But the most important thing, it's not the juice, it's you. You made the decision to listen. You opened your mind to something new. You allowed yourself to be curious, hopeful, and maybe, just maybe, ready to try again. That matters more than any molecule in a glass. Because when a man begins to care for himself not out of vanity but out of dignity, everything starts to shift. Energy returns, touch becomes warmer, eyes meet longer. And somewhere between the first sip and the 7th week, you begin to realize you never lost yourself. You just stopped listening for a while. So today, I'm not asking you to overhaul your life. Just pour one glass, keep it simple, keep it steady, keep it sacred. Let that small act remind you of something ancient and true. You're still here, you're still a man, and your story isn't done yet. Now, if this podcast helped you even in a small way, would you do something in return? Tap the like button. It tells us this message matters. It gives us the fuel to keep showing up for men like you week after week. Subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is your space built on truth, science, and quiet strength. No gimmicks, no sponsors, just men helping men, and leave a comment. You don't have to say much. Just a simple trying is enough. Because when you speak, you help someone else feel less alone. And finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it to him. A friend, a brother, a neighbor. He may not say it out loud, but you never know what kind of difference one message can make. From my heart to yours, thank you for your time, your trust, and your courage to keep going. This is Dr. Jonathan Prescott from the Prescott Lab podcast, and I'll be right here when you're ready for the next step.